Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Pop Culture Galaxy podcast. I'm Mark Bridge and I'm here with Zach Worsner.
That's me.
And we're back in video format. Let me know, what did you think of, were you comfortable with the whole video format from last? Like, is this something we're all cool with? Doing video?
I personally love being recorded.
But before we start, we kind of talk about a little bit of stuff we never got to talk about, because we only do this weekly. Of course, Stan Lee passed, the legend, the man, Stan Lee, for creating Spider-Man, X-Men, Fantastic Four, well, co-creating. I mean, there was a bit of controversy around those creations, like, how much input did he have, really? But it doesn't really matter. He's like the man who shepherded all these heroes into the imagination and the consciousness of all the pop culture, and it emanated to this day. You know what I mean? So what do you think? Do you think he has left a legacy that, as much as, like, say, a Walt Disney? What do you think?
Oh, I'd say that he has a greater legacy than Walt Disney. Even if more kids know Walt Disney,
right?
I think they grow into comics.
Mm-hmm.
I think Disney movies and characters can be problematic because they're about these amazing chosen one people who are just impossible.
Right.
And the whole point of Marvel Comics is that anybody, Spider-Man, anytime in movies or in comics that he's unmasked, everyone is surprised because it's just a kid. It could be, anyone could be Spider-Man.
Right.
You don't need to have a wicked stepmother who locks you in the castle fortress or whatever.
Yeah, man. It's amazing how, all the stuff, and the thing with what made Stan so different from other creators, and I almost believe this was what even contributed to the fact that, like, say, a Jack Kirby and a Steve Ditko wasn't as famous. He put himself out there. You know what I mean? He, like, a lot of artists, what I notice is that they're withdrawn. Like, okay, it's all about my art. I focus on my art, and let that speak for itself. But Stan Lee is, okay, my work will speak for itself, but also I'll speak for me as well. I'll put myself out there. I'll put my face out there. And if you want to talk to me about certain things, I'm here for you to talk. So he put himself out there. So it's definitely, a thing where if Steve, notice I'm trying not to disrespect Steve Ditko or Jack Kirby and all the other creators, but if they had put themselves out there as well, they would be on the same footing, as Stan.
It's one of those things where they're shy.
Yeah.
Like, it's sad, but it's true. If you're shy, and you let someone not take credit for your work, but say, if you let someone go and represent your work in the public space and you don't,
yeah,
then how do you expect people to know that you exist?
Right.
And it's been debated whether or not Stan took more credit than he deserved, but it's also been said that he at least with Steve, I forget which are which, but at least with one of them, he did, they ended things on friendly terms and became friends again.
Yeah.
After they had broken up.
Yeah. I know Jack is the one who did Fantastic Four and what is it? Fantastic Four, X-Men. Steve did Doctor Strange and Spider-Man. But yeah, it's I really like, and when you have, like, someone famous die, sometimes you'll feel sad, like, oh man, like, that person had so much work ahead of them, and or he or she will be surely missed. It's the same thing with Stan. He'll be missed, but it's like when he died, it wasn't like, oh my god, he died. It was more like, wow, he really lived a life. It's almost 95.
It was 95.
Yeah, right. And he created all these things. So I like the fact that it was and you could sense it in the air too. It wasn't sadness. It was like, yeah, it was time, but he left a legacy. Like,
it sounds a little callous to say, but almost. I also felt a little bit of relief.
Yeah.
Because of the recent stuff about his, his living conditions,
right.
And people maybe taking advantage of him, and Kevin Smith going on Twitter and being like, "Hey, man, I don't know where you are, but if you want, you can live with me."
Yeah, that was.
And his old friend Lloyd Kaufman, the film director, openly saying that I used to talk to Stan all the time, but now his people don't let me talk to him anymore.
Yeah,
they're hiding him from me, and it may have been just because he was sick. But it also, we don't know what was going on in his last months.
Yeah,
it's a little bit. It was a lot concerning. And now that he's gone, it's not something that we have to fear to worry about. Is Stan okay?
Right.
It's one case where I firmly believe. And choose to believe that he's in a better place than he was in his last, several months at least.
Yeah, definitely. So, how long you think we're gonna get a Stan Lee movie about his life?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna be playing him.
Excelsior.
Yeah, you can be Jack Kirby.
I think I'm the right.
Came up with a great idea.
I think I'm the wrong shade for Jack Kirby, but it's good.
We'll use special effects.
All right, so the other thing I want to talk about before we get officially started is last night I watched The Night Comes for Us, and this stars oh my god, I can never get his name right. You gotta help me out here. What is his name?
Iko Uwais.
Yes. And the other guy too was in the first Raid, I believe, right?
Yeah.
He played the cop.
His name is something else.
Yeah.
Ben. Shoot. It's funny because his first name is not as exotic,
right,
to American ears.
You know what? Let me look it up. Hold on.
It's like Joe Taslim.
That's his name?
Yeah, I'm surely mispronouncing his last name, but his first name, or at least his stage name, is Joe, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Joe Taslim. Yep.
Yeah. Who was also in Star Trek Beyond.
Oh wait, who was he in Star Trek?
He was the one guy who has a martial arts fight scene with J-Law.
Oh.
And he was in Fast and Furious 6.
Oh yes, he was. I remember him. Yes, I remember that. Oh yeah, so I saw the movie. Holy crap! Number one, it's gory as hell. Gory as hell. That's one, and the martial arts. Oh my god, they really stepped up their game on that one. Now it's not directed by Gareth Evans. But I do believe it's made in the same vein, where it's almost 2 hours of really showcasing this brutal but very graceful martial arts.
There's definitely a rivalry between Gareth and the director of this film, who also did Headshot, which came out on Netflix.
Oh, I hadn't seen that one yet, but I need to see that. Yeah, but wow. Though I only have one drawback in that I felt the sort of, I'm not going to spoil anything, but towards the climax of the film, why the two characters end up fighting felt a little bit contrived. Like, I'm like, okay, if they were going to end up there, and unless I missed something in the dialogues, but like, if they were going to end up doing that, why, that person did so much to help that other character is like, wait, why are they fighting again? I don't understand. You know what I mean? The fight was awesome, but I'm like, why are they fighting?
I think that there's stuff in there in the story that kind of explains it. That it's about, loyalty and duty and friendship and nature and nurture and all that. Mm-hmm. There's so much momentum that regardless, we don't really mind.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, I don't know why these guys are fighting, but it looks dope.
Yeah, it's one of those things where oftentimes I can get mad if people start fighting for no reason.
Yeah.
This is not one of those cases.
But yeah, it was really good. It's on Netflix, so you guys could check it out. The Night Comes for Us. Awesome movie.
It's also one of those things, if you've got, someone who if you like movies, you'll like this movie, but if you've got someone in your life who is not going to respond well to, the most violent action movie we've ever seen, maybe don't show it to them.
Yeah.
If they want to watch it, they can watch it, but if you're like, I want to show you this great movie, but it is also the most violent thing you will ever see.
Yeah.
They're not going to respond well.
Yeah, they're not.
Just don't.
Right. So let's actually move on to some movie news. All right. So off the top here, excuse me, guys. I'm trying to get over a cold, but I'm here for you. Dan Aykroyd, this guy will not give up on a Ghostbusters 3. So he did some interview where he says there's a chance that the cast will the remaining Ghostbusters would reunite, and he's writing Ghostbusters 3 right now. I thought he gave up on Ghostbusters when the all-female Ghostbusters came out. Wasn't that him saying, all right, we throw in the towel, we're not making any more Ghostbusters?
I would have hoped so.
And I'm a huge fan of the Ghostbusters movies. As a matter of fact, even though it might not be a popular opinion, I actually love Ghostbusters 2 more than 1. Right? It's that strange case, because remember Men in Black? Men in Black 2 is just a bigger budget version of Men in Black 1.
Yeah, I didn't like Men in Black 2.
Right? And I didn't like Men in Black 2 either. Ghostbusters 2 is just a bigger budget version of Ghostbusters 1. It's a complete rehash. Hangover 2 was a rehash of Hangover 1, you know what I mean? But
I love the mood slime.
Yeah, but for some reason Ghostbusters 2 to me it was more enjoyable. But again, I was a kid when I saw it. I had that kid sensibility when I saw it. It was just a bigger version of part 1. Really? Awesome. And I love 1 because I had 1 when it was on tape, and every time I came home from school, I watched that movie to the point where it actually popped in the VCR. I wore it out so much. And I discovered 1 when the cartoon was out. I didn't know it was based on a movie, right? And I was like, okay, wait, what is this? They made a movie of Ghostbusters, not knowing that the movie came first. So I was surprised how accurate the movie was to the cartoon. So I was like, they made it so accurate, not knowing that it's actually the other way around. Later on, I found that out. But yeah, I mean, that's as much as I love 1 and 2. At a certain point, I gave up on the idea of part 3 to the point where I was like, come on, just stop. It's not gonna happen. Not even Bill Murray wants this thing. But according to Dan, Bill will not definitely, but he says Bill might even come back for this one, even if he's playing a ghost. Is this something you want still, or want Ghostbusters 3?
Not really, because I mean, maybe if Dan Aykroyd plays the chief, and then you get some young people, even the Lady Ghostbusters,
right?
Awful.
Yeah.
That movie had some serious issues that were just, it was completely broken in places. But I don't think that the cast was a problem with that.
Right.
I think that cast was so good that they can easily, there's so much backlash, mostly from angry, boys, the Proud Boys and all those freaking dipshits.
Yeah.
But I would love to see what I would have loved to see in the first place with Ghostbusters 3 / remake,
Mm-hmm.
which was, the trend that has been doing very well, which is the soft reboot,
Right.
where you make basically a remake, but it's actually a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah.
We saw that with Star Wars, and we saw that with Rocky,
Mm-hmm.
and we saw that with other things.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the two biggest ones off the top of my head. So hyped for Creed 2.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Those were standalone stories that new audiences could get into,
Mm-hmm.
but there were also sequels that catered specifically, but secondarily, but also equally
Mm-hmm.
to old school fans who
Yeah.
wanted the further, another story with Sylvester Stallone or with Harrison Ford.
Right.
The original, idea was that, Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Ernie Hudson are 150 years old. So they would be, behind the scenes or wise mentors.
Yeah, they were. The idea was to pass the baton to younger, fresher Ghostbusters.
Or I like the idea of Bill Murray as a ghost.
Yeah.
And it is also Bill Murray's fault that this movie hadn't been made, decades ago.
Yeah.
Because he was always going, no, I don't wanna.
Yeah.
I'd rather play golf. I'd rather do Garfield. I could do Garfield or I could do Ghostbusters 3. I don't know, Garfield.
Yeah. And then what was like an insult? It was an insult. Was like he was kept saying no to Ghostbusters, but he said yes to the Ghostbusters video game. He was like, I'll do the voice. I don't care.
Yeah, and that's also a thing that I love that game.
Uh-huh.
I know that not everybody plays video games, but when people say, I want a Ghostbusters 3, I go, you gotta check out this video game, man.
Yeah.
It's great. It's Ghostbusters 3. It's got Alyssa Milano.
Oh, really? I never played it.
It's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I mean, more power to him. I mean, Harold isn't here, rest in peace. But you got 3 remaining Ghostbusters, and I guess if they deal with the idea that they wanted to do from a long time ago, where they're gonna bring on younger Ghostbusters, and some of them could be female as well. I don't think we're against the ideas that you can have female as Ghostbusters.
I think some people are against that, but
But this would be a softer blow. It's like if you have the original Ghostbusters and they bring on, like, say, hey, we bring on 4 new Ghostbusters and 2 of them are female and the other 2 are male. You have the original and then you just have 2 females. They'll be like, all right, as long as I got my man on top, as long as the men are on top.
The new cast.
Yeah.
Maybe curb Melissa McCarthy's ad-libbing.
Yeah.
That makes scenes go on. She and Kristen Wiig are very funny together.
Yeah.
But they are also an editor's nightmare, I would imagine.
Yeah.
They make these scenes go on a lot longer than they need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And shame on Paul Feig for not going, let's get to the point a little faster.
Yeah.
But I would definitely like to see a movie with both of those casts together, even if the Ghostbusters that we know and love are, ancient and can't do anything. And Dan Aykroyd is like Marlon Brando shaped by now.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just see, man. Speaking of Paul Feig, however you pronounce his name, like, damn, his career took a turn after Ghostbusters.
Yeah, what's he doing now?
Well, he came out with that thriller with
Oh yeah, Simple Plan.
Yeah.
That did pretty well.
Did it though? I thought it never got traction.
It did pretty well considering its budget.
Okay.
It was definitely a different kind of movie for him.
Mm-hmm.
But
and what about critically? I don't think it did well critically, did it? Maybe it was a mixed response to it or whatever.
Probably mixed. I mean, that kind of black comedy is never universally acclaimed.
Yeah.
People always get mad about something.
Yeah. All right. But more power to him. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is Detective Pikachu, Pokemon.
It's so good.
Now, full disclosure, when Pokemon just came out, the cartoons was around. I was still into cartoons, granted, but I don't know. I watched some episodes when I was a kid, but I think I preferred much more grittier stuff. But I watched it enough to know some characters, but I wasn't an avid watcher of Pokemon, and I knew some of the Pokemon. I mean, there was 150 of them at a time, I think, but I only knew maybe 4 or 5. Of course, I knew like Charizard, Charmander, Squirtle, Jigglypuff, and of course Pikachu. Pika! But I didn't know a lot of them, but I was still aware. Even when I completely just stopped paying attention to Pokemon, I still was, I still ran in the circles of Pokemon fans. So I was able to sort of like get that Pokemon high, secondhand high off of me. Like, okay, I see this character, Mew, when Mew was introduced. Even though I never watched a movie with Mew or Mewtwo, I still knew about them because I was around that circles. But then now, watching the Detective Pikachu trailer and seeing characters that I recognize, I got hype as a non-fan. Really, I still got hype only because like I see a movie that's really paying attention to its source material, but doing something really interesting, giving something that a general audience that knows nothing about Pokemon could enjoy. And bold prediction, I believe this movie will not only make a crap ton of cash when it comes out, but it's going to be a Pikachu movie will be the first video game adaptation to make it big in mainstream.
Absolutely. I'm also like I consider myself like a medium, low to medium level Pokemon fan.
Right.
I watched the cartoon when I was a kid,
although
it was already on. It was on and I didn't care, and then I saw it at a friend's house and then was hooked.
Right.
But I didn't play any of the games until I was in high school. I didn't start playing until the remake of Red and Blue. Then I played the remake of Red and Blue, but that wasn't until way after the remake of Gold and Silver was already out.
Right.
So I played the remake of Red and Blue, the remake of Gold and Silver. I mean, not both of them, but you know what I mean. And then Black and White.
Right.
I played those. I have X or Y, whichever.
Yeah.
Or no, I don't have X. I have Omega Ruby.
Okay.
Or Alpha Sapphire, whichever. But I haven't played it yet. But I will be at some point in the near future. But when I saw this trailer, I showed it to people who are not Pokemon fans and who are not gamers at all. And they're like, I'm in.
Yep, that's it.
Awesome. It looks like it's Roger Rabbit with Pokemon.
Yeah, that's why I truly believe. And some people were skeptical, like, okay, because Detective Pikachu is a video game, and
but nobody knows what that is.
Yeah, right. And the movie, for what I'm hearing, the movie pretty much follows the same plot as that video game, but some people would ask, okay, if you're doing a Pokemon adaptation, why that one? Why not go with a red or a blue, or even because someone schooled me on the whole Pokemon lore, and the anime really is its own thing. Ash is really based on I guess blue or red or some character.
Yeah, we don't want. I mean, that doesn't really work that well. In theory for a film adaptation, just because there's a million. What are they called? Shonen.
Yes. Yeah. Shonen anime.
I'm hip.
Yeah.
I'm hip. I know the lingo. That works much better for an episodic series where it's like a different 30-minute adventure every week.
Yeah.
Than it does for a 2-hour movie.
Yep.
It's like they did an anime series recently. It was like a mini series of Pokemon that was based on Red and Blue. And it was like 6 episodes. So the whole thing is like 2.5 hours or so.
Right.
And it just, it's feature length. And it just blazes through the whole story, and it's a mess, and it's not very good. But I mean, I guess some people like it, so if you like it, then that is totally fine.
Yeah.
I personally didn't like it because I felt it just rushed through things so much faster and didn't really get to build the world at all. Instead of building the world, it was like, he's got to get this badge, he's got this badge, now he's got this badge. Now we're just gonna skip like 3 or 4 badges, and now all of a sudden he has almost all the badges. Detective Pikachu is something where they can tell their own. Yeah, it's based on a game that no one's ever heard of, except for like hardcore. People who helped the trailer become a meme because of the Danny DeVito dub.
Yeah.
And no, Danny DeVito was never gonna do the voice, so get over it.
Yeah.
And it's a story that tells like a little corner of the Pokemon world that can expose you to that world without having to explain everything to you in the way that shonens typically do. So it's definitely a good idea, and also not to do a straight adaptation of a game that everybody knows is that it's less to compare. So, people are gonna go, oh well, they didn't go to Lavender Town, so I'm out.
As a matter of fact, the ticket, it did say Lavender, but didn't the ticket say Levin or something like that, or what did it really say?
I think that might be a different town.
Right.
I mean, there's so many games at this point that there's. I can't imagine that they would just make up something like that.
But yeah, it's. I think it was really smart decision to go with the Detective Pikachu, and the fact that you have Ryan Reynolds, you basically have
the best Ryan.
Yeah, you have Deadpool playing Pikachu here. It definitely gives the idea that a lot of non-Pokemon fans will go and see this movie, because I watched a bunch of reactions on the internet too, like to the trailer, and people who aren't fans, they say, "Oh, I'm definitely gonna see it." So I as close. I want to say, no, I'm not gonna say. I was gonna say, yo, this could possibly beat Avengers 4 if it's a good movie. If it's, because trailers could be good. You can make good trailers to terrible movies. But like, say if this movie is received well critically, because that's the thing, right? If people are already hyped for this thing, and other trailers are gonna show it, get people more hype. So if the critics are saying this movie's really good, it has a shot. Maybe a small shot, but it has a shot. Because as much as a lot of people know Marvel, I think there's a bigger pool of people who, especially around kids, because you have generation of kids who know Pokemon, from the 90s to now. It's continued, so you have a whole generation that's followed Pokemon, and if it's a good movie, holy crap, it could possibly beat Avengers 4. I doubt it, but it could.
I think that they can both coexist. I do think that there are a lot, like Marvel, the age range is complete.
Right.
Whether you're a little kid or an old person, you're probably into Marvel.
Right.
And whether you're a little kid or an old person, you can be sold. You're either into or have been sold by this trailer.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that it will be able to compete, to coexist. I think it's too early to guess whether or not it's actually going to be able to top
Avengers 4. Yeah.
Or whether it'll be able to, at the very least, steal first place from Avengers' second weekend.
Yeah.
We'll see. And that kind of movie might, open to 250 million like Avengers 3. Avengers 4 could open that big.
Yeah.
And then drop off pretty hard the next weekend now that everyone has seen the movie. But I think it's a little too early to guess about that. But I think that they can both make significant headlines next summer.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the other bit of movie news, the other trailer is the Dumbo trailer. So it's another of Disney remaking their animated films back in the day. Tim Burton is heading this one. The only thing I really have to say about this, looks good, from what I see, but I'm disappointed. No Jiminy Cricket, really?
Well, that's Pinocchio.
Oh, damn it! Wait, no, didn't he have like a thing on his hat? Oh no, I'm thinking.
Yeah, you're thinking of Pinocchio.
Yeah. Right. Oh, I guess I'm mixing up my two animated stuff. Granted, I haven't seen Dumbo since the 90s. I was young watching that. I haven't seen it, but wow, I can't believe I mixed those two up. Hey, whatever. But yeah, so far it looks good. Thandie Newton's daughter is in this one. She looks just like Thandie Newton, and Danny DeVito and Colin Farrell. It has a lot of Tim Burton's flair for set design. Some of his sort of cinematography kind of look is in there. Yeah, I'm excited. I don't think it'll do as well as Lion King or Aladdin. But Jesus Christ, Disney is coming with some arsenal next year. What did you think of the trailer?
I think that it's a good fit for Tim Burton in a way that Alice in Wonderland, despite being very, very successful, was maybe not. I think that it's easy for him to get distracted when you give him an entire world to play with,
right?
Without focusing on a strong lead character. I think that he gets a little distracted, which is why Alice in Wonderland is such a mess. A gorgeous mess, but a mess nonetheless, and it's something that he falls into a lot, especially lately. Of what was the last good Tim Burton movie? Like, they all have pretty colors and designs, but he's kind of not exactly on a hot streak.
Yeah. Damn, what was the last good one? Was it Big Eyes, maybe?
I guess, but that was more that should have been creatively refreshing for him, but he just went straight from that into more junk.
Yeah. And it's amazing. I
was so disappointed in Dark Shadows. I had very high hopes for that one.
Right. I guess Disney still hires him, so I guess they still like what he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, whether or not the movie's good, if you make Alice in Wonderland that rakes in $1 billion, granted, it was also the first 3D movie after Avatar.
Yeah.
But whatever.
He didn't do the second one, right?
$1
He didn't do Looking Glass, right? That was another director. Yeah.
He produced it. But he did not direct that.
Yeah.
I think Dumbo is a perfect fit for his sensibilities. It's a circus. It's a bunch of freaks, and it's the one freak that they all make fun of. I mean, that's Edward Scissorhands right there. And so that is a perfect pairing of material with the director. So I'm in. But he's also I'm in, but I'm also cautious. I'm cautiously optimistic, just because we've been burned by Burton before. But he's also one of those guys who, when he's on, he's so on that I'll give him 1,000,000 chances. Yeah. And just watch everything, because no matter how many times he gets it wrong, it's worth it, because when he gets it right, he gets it so right.
Yeah. I almost forgot. Disney has 2019 so stacked. I keep forgetting. Like, especially when Dumbo, the trailer came, I was like, oh yeah, that's right, Dumbo is coming out. When the trailer for Aladdin came out, I forgot Lion King was coming out. I was like, oh, that's right. Holy, what? Should we be worried or excited for Disney next year? Because
they're doing fine. I mean, it would have been good if at least one of those movies had come out this year, because they had a pretty barren 2018.
Yeah.
Marvel notwithstanding, and but Christopher Robin was never gonna be
Mm-hmm.
a $200 million movie.
Right.
It had a comparatively much smaller budget, and I did finally see it a month or two ago, and I loved it. I thought it was great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I cried a whole bunch during that movie. But it was never going to be, this is the movie that's going to keep our studio afloat this year.
Right.
And the less said about the Nutcracker, the better.
Do you notice that for Disney, every year they have that one movie that comes out that doesn't do well as pretty much their tax write-off movie? Like every year.
What was did A Wrinkle in Time, was that this year?
Yeah, that was this year. But,
yeah, so they had two of those
this
year.
1 year was John Carter, which it's a travesty that movie didn't do well. I think last year was Peace Dragon. That was their tax write-off movie last year.
That's one that's like Christopher Robin, where it made less money, but it also had a significantly smaller budget, so it still brought in money. It just didn't bring in. It didn't move the needle.
Right. So
but it wasn't a flop either.
Yeah.
No.
But for as far as 2019, like they're going to dominate 2019 so hard.
Yeah, and that's not even talking about the two Marvel movies.
Yeah, the two
three Marvel movies.
Well, technically it's two because Sony's putting out Spider-Man.
True. Yeah, they don't make money off.
Yeah. So the two Marvel movies, the Star Wars movie, the three Disney remake movies, which is Lion King, Dumbo, and Aladdin. The Pixar movie, which is Toy Story 4. Holy crap. Which we saw the trailers for those. Looking pretty interesting. I hope they don't mess up the legacy of the first three. I actually cried in the third one. Like,
oh yeah, we all did.
It was like, holy crap, you know what I mean? But you have all those movies. Like, who is competing with them? No one.
And that's a problem. We don't like monopolies in the film business. I don't. It feels weird to say on this podcast of all places, but I don't want Disney to get all of their Marvel properties back. We never would have gotten the Deadpool that we got,
right,
if Disney had the rights to that.
Well, maybe this is more of the fact that we saw what a X-Men property could be without them. They could adapt that to their philosophy once the whole deal goes through. I'm being an optimistic guy here,
yeah, we'll see about that.
Where Bob sees the power of Deadpool and say, you know what, let's keep Deadpool as is. Even though I'm worried that when the PG-13 version comes out this December, Once Upon a Deadpool, and if that does well, they say, see, a PG-13 version can do well. We don't need to make him rated R. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But my gosh, man, like Sony will do well, obviously because Spider-Man, but that's because they're building off of the work that Disney Marvel did. You know what I mean? Sony might do well with Men in Black. I think Men in Black comes out next year as well, right? The new one with Chris Hemsworth, I think, maybe? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it is next year. I didn't even see Men in Black 3.
Warner Brothers only has... Well, they have Pokemon. I guess Pokemon would be their big deal. Pokemon and Shazam. I don't know what else they have, but Jesus, Disney has... Basically, the market share belongs to them. Again.
Yeah, I mean that sounds good, but it's also
it's scary. It's scary that I mean, I'm usually an optimistic guy, and I love the fact that these movies are coming out next year for my entertainment. But I don't want it to get to Disney's head, because we've seen it happen. We're going to talk about Sony later on. But when Sony came out with the PS3, that was their hubris that caused that whole debacle. So if, any studio that feels that they're untouchable when it comes to certain things, they might start to do some bad practices that are anti-consumer, and it could, by the time they try to course correct, the damage could already be done. Now, the good thing about that, if they start to pull bullshit, is that another studio could pick up the slack and run with it, or they all could just say, you know what, let's try to do what Disney did, and then the whole thing could collapse. And that's just worst case scenario. But I'm still an optimist, and I'm still excited. But yeah, can't wait for all these movies to come out. So I guess we can move on. You have anything else you want to add?
I'm I don't want to sound like a downer. I hope that all these movies do really well. I just don't support how vertically integrated Disney is right now.
Right.
How that can be, stifling to independent content producers.
Mm-hmm. All right. So now let's move on to some video game news. So no TV. I couldn't find any TV stuff that I really wanted to talk about. So let's move on to some game news. All right. So, holy crap. Sony has decided that they're skipping E3 2019. I know it's I'm sure they'll have some cool thing planned, whatever, but I'm actually a little bit bummed out, I gotta say. Now let me read the statement that Sony put out. They said, as the industry evolves, Sony Interactive Entertainment continues to look for inventive opportunities to engage the community. PlayStation fans mean the world to us, and we always want to innovate, think differently, and experiment with ways to delight gamers. As a result, we have decided not to participate in E3 in 2019. We are exploring new and familiar ways to engage our community in 2019 and can't wait to share our plans with you. Now, that sounds like they are planning their own convention. Now, we thought the PSX was their convention, but they skipped PSX this year. They didn't mention anything about PSX next year. So, are they, if perhaps creating their, just getting rid of PSX, but creating their own sort of BlizzCon going forward? Let me ask you, how do you feel about them skipping E3, and what do you think they have planned going forward to rectify that?
I think all the games that they want to show at E3 are not ready to show yet, and are not on PS4.
Right.
So, I don't think that they're ready to reveal the PS5 yet. I don't think they'll be ready by summer. Maybe they'll be ready by next winter, which is PSX time. There's no PSX this year, but there's no reason to think that it won't be there next year.
Right.
They have a reputation for putting on events specifically to reveal new consoles.
Yeah.
At least, lately. The PS4 had its own reveal event. The PS4 Pro had its own reveal event.
Yeah.
I don't think that anything that they, maybe, I don't think even if it was ready, they wouldn't want to show stuff at E3 this year, because PS4 has such strong momentum right now.
Right.
That, not that they want it to sell less, but they're like, we should not put out PS5 stuff yet, because we don't want to slow down what we have.
Got it.
I think that they are very happy this console generation. They're outselling the Xbox like 2-1, and the Xbox is already selling very well. So they're outselling something that's selling very well. Was selling very well. I think it's slowed down significantly since launch. I think both consoles had very stellar launches, but the Xbox's stellar launch was just overshadowed by how incredible the PS4 was.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the PS4 has continued to sell very well. The Xbox.
It's outsold the PS3, right? And it's right under the PS1. I don't think it's outsold the PS1 yet, but it's like right under in terms of how many units.
It's in that 80 million range.
Yeah, but it's not gonna touch the PS2 sales. Yeah.
But it's also, maybe when the PS5 comes out, it's too expensive. They'll continue selling PS4s.
Right.
PS4 Super Slim.
Yeah.
Like, it fits in your pocket.
Yep.
PS4 handheld.
But yeah, like I'm always E3 is always like the Super Bowl of video games, right? It's like the one event in the year for as a video gamer that you look forward to hearing about new stuff. But then what does that do for E3 now? It's like, okay, Nintendo stopped about 4 or 5 years ago, whatever, or 3.
And they started doing the digital directs.
I think Activision left like around that same time as well. Rockstar has never had a presence there, but I guess you have Bethesda still there. Bethesda, EA, Ubisoft, and is Microsoft still gonna do their? They keep saying Microsoft left last year, but I guess they meant booth wise.
They were across the street.
Yeah, but they still had a conference.
Yeah, they still had a conference. They still had a presence on the floor. But they were across the street. So they had a much bigger presence across the street.
So, but Sony is not doing the same thing, right? Sony just is entirely skipping it, like nothing, no presence at all for Sony.
Well, their games will be there just because if there's a booth for anything, they'll have a PS4 version.
You're right.
But as for and I suppose Sony exclusives, Spider-Man.
Right.
I mean, Spider-Man obviously won't be there, but if they have an equivalent by the summer, I don't know if Death Stranding gets a release date by then. We'll see. It's hard to imagine that won't be there, but it's it's published by Sony, so we'll see. But I think that they will have something else, if not at E3. If they don't do what Xbox and EA have done, which is have their own adjacent events at essentially the same location, they will have something. They'll have something for us.
Yeah. And part of the reasons I'm kind of bummed out is almost selfish reason. Like I was really planning to live stream this next year's E3. Like that was a hope to live stream it, and I was looking forward to Sony's live stream, so I can live stream and react, build an audience around that too. But the time I decided to do that, Sony's skipping it. I was like,
Yeah, no. I mean, you're telling me. I'm glad I got to E3 when I did. I went to my first E3 this year.
Right.
And I'm like, oh man, if E3 is gonna suck next year, I'm glad I went this year.
Yeah. So that's the question: is it gonna suck now that a lot of major players are out of the game? Like,
if anyone else drops out, yeah.
I mean, what does because I believe part of the reason too, I think some people were discussing this, that part of the reason too is like to have a presence there costs a lot of money, especially if you really don't have major things to show. It's not cost effective to have a whole conference there and booth set up. Does the what is it, the ESA, the guys who run E3, do they make some sort of deal, like go to Sony, go to Microsoft, go to whoever and say, listen, all right, we can't afford to have like a lackluster 2019. Do they actually come out and try to be more, like, I don't know, offer some sort of package discount, like they'll cut half the cost because they'll pick up that cost as well, like offer some incentive for these companies to be there, because like all these major companies dropping out is not a good look for E3.
It could be a power play, being like, we're more important than what we have been given.
Right.
We want even more space next year than we had this year.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it could be something like that. Sony is this big corporate giant. They have, even when they're in debt, they have more money than God.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh no, we can't afford to go to E3 this year. Sorry, guys. That's never gonna be a problem for them.
Mm-hmm.
Unless the PS5 flops so hard, it's like, who knows? But I don't see. I can see Sony saying no, we don't want to spend any more money, but I can also see them backing down if the E3 board says no, you get what you got last year, and they'll just go, okay, well, we tried.
Yeah.
And then just returning to business as usual. If not this year, 2019, then next year, 2020. Being like, hey, we took a year off because we wanted to show you the PS5.
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah, that's all I wanted to ask too. Is like, do you think the whole skipping it is a forever thing? Like, all right, we're done with E3.
I think it has everything to do with console life cycles.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about as long, I think, since the PS4 was announced, as it was, the gap between the PS3 coming out and the PS4 being announced.
Right.
I really thought that we were gonna wait until 2020 to get an announcement for 2021.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe we'll get an announcement in 2019 for a release in 2020.
Yeah, I believe 2020 is like the right year. It could it could be 2021, maybe a first quarter 2021. But I think 2020 is that year we're getting a PS5.
Yeah, and I think that the timing of everything that is in development now.
Yeah.
They can either show PS4 versions with which at this point I'm sure have broken frame rates and
right,
this and that. If they make a cross-gen version of Death Stranding, the PS4 version, I would not be so. Well, no, they did say that Death Stranding that we've seen has been running on PS4 hardware.
Mm-hmm.
There's been long speculated that that's going to be cross-gen.
Right. When do you think Death Stranding is going to come out? You think it's going to be next year, or you think they're going to push it off to 2020?
I don't want to guess, because if I do, then it's just going to be after that. I would love for it to be 2019. It is my most anticipated game ever.
Right.
Even though I don't know what it is. But I'm in. There are very few games that I'll buy on day one. If it says a Hideo Kojima game, that's one of those games that I will buy on day one. There has not been a Hideo Kojima game that I haven't bought on day one since I've had my own money to spend.
Right.
Well, I did get a review copy of Metal Gear Solid 5, so that I suppose they paid me.
Yeah.
But, I want it to be 2019. It won't be till 2020.
Oh, God damn it!
It'll be cross-gen. It'll run at 22 frames per second on PS4. It will be the best game of all time. It will get a mix of 5s and 10s, and half of everybody will hate it, and half of everybody will see the truth.
Here's the thing. I had this discussion with a friend of mine. I even did a video of it when the last trailer came out for it. That I have some concerns, so to speak, about the game. And it's not just to do with Hideo himself. It's to do with whenever sort of directors get... Any kind of creator gets creative freedom and the resources to back that creative freedom up, sometimes can have disastrous results, right? Like, he was on hinged. Basically, it was like no one was there to rein that person in. It was like, listen, we might not need that. We see that with George. We saw that with George with the prequels, where some of the creativity that he had on the very first Star Wars movies, now that he had, carte blanche to do whatever he wanted to do, it kind of gave a more shallow presentation of his work. Then you come to Hideo, right? You see where he started from with the Famicom. He had little resources, so he had to be very inventive with the game. He moved on to the first PlayStation. He's the first time working with Polygon, so everything counted, like the story resources. As a matter of fact, if you play that game, it's his least, other than the Famicom games, the least complicated Metal Gear game, right? It's straightforward. There's a terrorist, they want a body, or they're gonna blow you up, and you're there to not only save some hostage but stop the crisis. Boom, that's it, right?
Well, it's actually, that's how it starts, and
right.
That's how they sell it to you.
Yeah. And
then by the end, it goes.
Yeah, but even when it got nuts, like, oh, you're finding out that you're a clone of Big Boss, but that was very understandable. It never really.
That's later, but it's later, but it's also kind of the lasting legacy of that game,
right?
Which is why they were able to sell Metal Gear Solid 2. Not only on, this is a powerhouse on PS2, it's we're not telling you about the story.
Right. So, but basically when 2 came out, got more power, but he went really crazy with the story.
Yeah.
Right? Like, holy shit, right? I think he probably did rein himself back in for Metal Gear Solid 3. Like, it's not as complex. I think maybe it's even more, it's easier to understand in 1.
It's more like the first one.
It's very.
Although it doesn't work with me personally, because Metal Gear Solid 2 is my favorite game of all time.
Right.
And Metal Gear Solid 3, I know that it's many people's absolute favorite Metal Gear game.
Right.
It's great. Still a 10 out of 10.
Right.
But it's I have issues with it. Still a 10 out of 10.
Right.
I'm not gonna say that it's not an amazing, incredible game that I can play right now and have a ball of a time with. But there's some things about it that piss me off.
And then Metal Gear Solid 4 comes out. Nothing but cutscenes.
I know, so great.
Which I love. Don't get me wrong. I love that. I love that.
Kojima saying, "Oh, you want this? Well, too bad. You get this."
Yeah, right. Nothing but cutscenes, and a lot of it's basically excess. That movie was. That game was like.
Ready to slip.
Was excess, and then 5 came out, and it went the other route where it's less cutscenes, but the game was still huge. It was just. Big to the point he never got to finish the game.
Yeah, at some point, someone's gonna write a real book about what happened.
Right.
It won't be for decades.
So
but there will be the untold story of Metal Gear Solid 5 at some point.
So now that Sony has said, Kojima, come over here, don't worry about it, do whatever you want. Like, is he going to keep just like the trailers? Granted, they're trailers and they're not. They may not be representative of what the actual product is, but the trailers are. Like I would hate to have the game be like the trailers, where it's like one of those things you have to decipher. When the game is done, when you beat the game, you're like, you have to think about what it all meant. You know what I mean? And that's because he just pulled from everything he's learned, not only in game making, but in terms of philosophy, in terms of how the world works, in terms of just everything. He just pulled into this thing. He just vomited everything he wanted to do in a video game, and that's it. And it's like, it doesn't work well narratively or structurally, but it's just what he wanted to do. Like, that is I doubt it, but that's just my fear of what Death Stranding will end up being.
I can definitely see people having that fear, and I think that he's almost courting that.
Right.
I think he's saying that this is me, this is Kojima Unchained,
Right. Right.
free from the tethers of Konami, and allowed to, having that auteur license.
Yeah.
And I think he wants people to be afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
I think once we actually get to play it, the things that seem so obtuse will make so much sense.
Right.
I think that he likes being a provocateur, and he likes getting people talking about, what the hell is this? What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
I'm so upset. And what are you even upset about? I'm upset because I don't know. And I'm sure that that's part of the game.
Right.
His trailers are part of the game. Metal Gear Solid 2's trailers are part of that game.
Mm-hmm.
Metal Gear Solid 5's trailers are a message saying, this is the best part of the game. You don't need to play it. No, I kid Metal Gear Solid 5. It's still still 10 out of 10. Completely unfinished. You can see at the end of that game in Chapter 2 where they just run out of money and go, no, you need to ship this now.
Yeah.
And he goes, all right. So, that is the best game that we're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make games that are better than that. We need to get Final Fantasy VII Remake in 3 different games. We just can't, if we want it to be as good as a next-gen game, until we develop better compression technology for textures and outgrow hard disk drives and Blu-ray discs,
mm-hmm.
This is what we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have to deal with Final Fantasy VII being 3 games that will cost a combined $180 minus special edition
mm-hmm.
costs. And we'll have to deal with the fact that Metal Gear Solid 5 is not done. It has no ending.
Mm.
Or no, not that it has no ending, it has no third act. It goes straight from the middle to the end.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the Phantom Pain. I'm hurt by things that aren't there.
The thing about it is, I have a different point of view on Metal Gear 5. Well, I mean, I think it has an ending in terms of, you could definitely see where it goes from there. And maybe you would have to take some creative license in your head to for instance, screw it, we're spoiling Metal Gear Solid 5. You find out that the big boss you're playing with is not the big boss from Ground Zeroes or Metal Gear Solid 3 or Peace Walker. It's the medic. And the big boss that you
great. It's not even a twist. It's right there in the beginning.
Yeah, and the boss that you fight in Outer Haven in the first Metal Gear. It's the first Metal Gear, right?
Outer Heaven.
Yeah.
Outer Haven is MGS4.
Oh, right. Outer Heaven. He is the medic you fight, right? But
although it's also reductive to even call him the medic. It's like Big Boss says at the end. He's like, we're both Big Boss. We are collectively Big Boss.
Now, the game didn't say this, but I would like to think that the reason Big Boss had to die in the first Metal Gear was that his philosophy changed from the original Big Boss philosophy, and that the original Big Boss was the one who sent Snake to kill fake Big Boss.
Maybe. I mean, it was definitely leading up to, it was his way of closing the book in one way.
Right.
It brought the series full circle.
Right.
But it also was like, okay, now we do a remake of Metal Gear. The original 1980s Metal Gear that, was on the MSX and...
do you think that was a plan? Do you think that was Chapter 3?
I don't think it was... I had hoped that it would be Chapter 3, but I was fully expecting it to be the next game.
Right, either Chapter 3 or the next game, and do you think maybe that's when he would have brought David Hayter, or you think he just didn't want to work with David Hayter anymore?
I think that he got David Hayter because of reasons outside of any kind of loyalty or even artistic creativity.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like, no, I want a Hollywood actor.
Oh, okay.
I think David Hayter is ubiquitous to American audiences, but I think Kojima was never satisfied, but always wanted a star. And I love David Hayter. I met David Hayter completely randomly once, and it was amazing. And I got to talk to him for like 15 minutes, and I was like, "Am I bothering you?" And he's like, "No, this is awesome. You're doing fine." I was like, "Oh, okay, thank you." I've met so many people, and I very rarely geek out the way that I did with him.
Right.
But even back in when they were doing Metal Gear Solid and then Metal Gear Solid 3, he wanted Kurt Russell to voice Snake. And I think maybe that it was a mistake getting David Hayter for Metal Gear Solid 3. Maybe they should have gotten someone else for that one.
Right. But then that probably would have given it away. I mean, wasn't that supposed to be even though I guessed it from the beginning, wasn't that supposed to be a secret that you're actually playing as Big Boss in Metal Gear 3?
No, it was always like at the very, very beginning of the game. It says there's a little legend on the corner of the screen that says August 1964.
Right. Okay.
So that's never it's the core concept is that it's a prequel in the 60s.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that I don't think that there's anything personal from Hideo Kojima to David Hayter. I think David Hayter may have taken it personally.
Right.
I think that he's like, I am Snake. And I think that he has earned that. And I think to Western audiences, he absolutely is Snake.
Right.
I think Kiefer Sutherland does a great job. I don't think he has enough lines to justify his casting.
Right.
I think that what lines he does have are incredible. I think he's great as Big Boss. And I would have loved to have seen him play Big Boss in Metal Gear with David Hayter playing Snake.
Now, do you think he didn't have enough of Kiefer because Kiefer was too busy, maybe? Because Kiefer talked a lot more in Ground Zeroes than he does
I think that part of it is misdirection. I think there's a million possible explanations, and I bet that they're all true. I think that there's a degree of how many sessions do we get with Kiefer?
Right.
How much of the script is done right now?
Yeah.
how much of the game's script that are being turned into cutscenes are completed? There are very comparatively few cutscenes in Metal Gear Solid 5. And I think that is because he went in gameplay first, creating an open world and creating these mechanics that we've seen in other Metal Gear games but have not been implemented in the way that they are in MGS5.
Right.
And I think the story came second, partly because, for so many reasons, because he wanted to make a gameplay-focused Metal Gear, because he didn't want to make a story.
Right.
But also because not having that is part of the story. There's so much that goes into the choices that were made on that game.
Right.
And some of them are creative, and some of them are financial, and some of them are Konami breathing down his neck going, you're spending too much money. Even though they're gonna make money off this.
Yeah.
There's it's a tragedy. It's worthy of its own movie, or at the very least, a very, very long Kotaku article.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll find out the truth.
I would love to find out one day.
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody's got non-disclosure agreements.
Yeah, that's the sucky part about it. Yeah.
Until Konami, implodes and shuts down like THQ.
Yeah.
We probably won't know the truth. But if they make a U-Draw tablet, maybe we'll get to find out.
Or maybe Jeff Keighley will get the exclusive once the release date of Death Stranding is around the corner. He probably will do like an expose, do a life of Hideo around the release of the game to build sort of momentum for the game, and then it'll do a whole tell-all with Jeff Keighley.
I would love that, because I want to know how much of what is wrong, quote unquote, with Metal Gear Solid 5 is by design.
Yeah.
Because I do think that more of it is by design than we would like to think.
And the reason why I say like is a lot more complete than you think, because I didn't get all the tapes, but I went searched the internet for all the tapes.
I got all the tapes.
And there's a lot of story that fill in the gaps with the tapes.
Yeah, but I think that those tapes are may or may not be the leftovers of what was intended to be a bigger part of the game.
Oh, okay. Right.
Like, they could just be the audio of cutscenes that were never finished.
Right.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if there's any way to know if that's true, but I don't know.
Yeah. All right. We could talk about this. We're gonna do a special video on Resident Evil and Metal Gear one of these days, where we can.
The Metal Gear Solid Survive 2.
Yeah. Oh no. I never
didn't buy it. Zero interest.
Nope. Didn't play it. Didn't buy it. Same thing.
I can see myself one day in the future seeing it either as a free PS Plus game.
Yeah, and just downloading it.
Or on an extremely steep discount, just going, let's try it. and then we'll see what happens. But I just have no interest.
Right. All right. So that brings us to the end of this episode. Where can people find you at?
You can find me on Twitter at my name, Zach Wojner. And you can read my articles on Screen Rant or Extra Life.
And you can find me on the Instagram and Twitter at Marky Tantra. You can find us on Facebook. That's facebook.com/PopCultureGalaxy. And you can hit that subscribe button. Drop a like. Drop a comment. Let us know what you think.
Ring the bell.
Hit that notification bell so you can know when videos are dropping. And, be good to each other. And, yeah, let me know what you guys think about all the topics we talked about today. It's all about what you guys think. We're just a bunch of saps up here talking shit. So
it's all about what I think.
Really? Okay. All right. It's all about what he thinks. But you can add to what he thinks as well and let us know. All right, folks, until next time, I gotta say, peace.
Indeed.